So that last video on house churches kind of blew up. Many of you in the comments talked about that you feel called to plant a church, but you just don't know where to start. So this video is going to help you know where to start. And there's 5 areas that I want you to consider. 5 specific questions I want you to ask yourself. There are 5 specific things I want you to pray about. There are 5 specific things to study in the scriptures. There are 5 different conversations you need to have. And there are 5 relationships that you need to form. And when you look at these 25 things, it's going to become clearer and clearer whether or not this is something that you need to do. This is not just like, let's do church in my home, it'll just be easier. This is war. You're entering into a battlefield within your home and your neighborhood when you begin into this. And if you don't understand that up front, you will not be prepared. So here's what you're going to need to consider. Here are the 5 questions you need to ask yourself before starting house church. Number 1, has God called you to do this, or is it just something you feel like doing? Like you're tired of big church and you want to try something different. Don't start a house church because you're tired of big church. That's not a calling. Number 2, has God gifted or equipped you to do this in any way, shape, or form? And this is not formal master's level Bible education. Is this something God has positioned you to do? The third is, has God put people in position around you to help make this possible? Do not go do this by yourself. You are going to need a partner that brings encouragement, support, and it brings accountability into the process so that you are not being abusive or going about this for selfish reasons. Number 4, do you have a good understanding of what church actually is? Some people think that church is just like a fellowship group. Some people think, oh, I'm going to do church in my home. They're just doing a Bible study. You need to understand what a church actually is. The 5th question that you need to ask is, do I have a humble spirit? Am I teachable? Or am I just doing this because I'm a narcissist? Am I just doing this because I want to be in charge and I didn't like the authorities of the past structures and now I get my chance to sit in the driver's seat? It's Jesus who's in the driver's seat. It's Jesus who should be in charge. It's Jesus who should be in control. This helps us check our heart and our motives to make sure that we are not starting this out of selfish, fleshly motives. Are we humble? Are we teachable? Are we correctable? Are we accountable? These are all things that go along whether or not we're willing to be surrendered and submitted to the will of God in starting this church, because it's His church, it's not your church. The next thing, 5 different things to pray about. Ask God for James 1:5 wisdom. He promised to give it. Ask Him for it. God, I need your wisdom. Is this something you want me to do? And if it is, please help me do this wisely. The second prayer that you need to pray, ask God for clear vision. What should this church be like? God, give us clear vision for what it is you are calling us to do. The third thing is ask God for help and support. God, please bring other people alongside to help us execute on the vision. Fourth, pray that God would give you a biblical foundation for what you're about to do, that it would be grounded in the scriptures. And the 5th prayer to pray is to ask God, who is the mission field? Is He just trying to get you to pull Christians from big churches and shuffle them from those seats to your seats? Or maybe God has put your home and your location next to your neighbors for a specific purpose for such a time as this. There's 5 specific things that would be very beneficial for you to study in order to start a house church. First, read a gospel. Get to know Jesus better. Not only read about Jesus, begin living out what He said. A church is the gathering of people who are all trying to follow Jesus in order to worship Him in the ways that the Bible describes. But if you're not following Jesus, if you're not in the Word, reading about Him, listening to Him, following His voice, then you don't have a church. And if you're going to be a leader or a servant leader in this thing, you're going to need to be the example. You're going to need to be incredibly serious about following Jesus. It's going to cost you a great deal to start a house church. People get into this like, oh, it's all gain and it's going to be more flexible and we're not going to have all those old problems. It's going to cost you a great deal to have a house church. This is what people don't understand. Starting a house church is not a glorious endeavor. It is incredibly enjoyable, incredibly fulfilling, but also incredibly challenging at times. Next, after reading a gospel, read the book of Acts. Ask yourself, what is a church? How did the early church operate? What kinds of things were they doing? So that you can make sure that your church has a biblical foundation. And what you're going to find in Acts is an absolute total reliance on the work and power of the Holy Spirit. Your church has to have that if it's going to succeed. I also want you to look in the letters of Paul and the epistles. What kind of things were they doing in church? What kind of activities were they doing? Why were they doing it? Look at the one another's. The love one another, bear each other's burdens, be kind to one another. This is the life of the church. And if you don't have a biblical foundation through the scriptures and through prayer, you are going to lead everyone astray. Now, the 5th thing I want you to study is the work of the Holy Spirit in the book of Acts. It's an essential study to see how God has used His Holy Spirit to empower the people of God, to inform the people of God, to begin to plant new churches, to begin to change the world and do amazing things. If we do not have the Holy Spirit working on our side, we are sunk. We will absolutely fail at this. The fourth part of this are 5 specific conversations you need to have. The first is talk with your neighborhood. Go around, ask what the needs are. The church exists within a community of people in order to be salt and light, and that means we're in tune with the needs of the people, and we're offering solutions for the problems of the community. We do not exist in and of ourselves. This is where house churches sometimes get messed up, as we begin to exist solely for the benefit of the members, and we are not salt and light in the way that Jesus wanted His church to be. Talk with your city officials. Find out the hot spots in the community where the gospel is most needed. Begin to enter into those areas, prayer walk, find out the needs, begin meeting the needs, and you will find more and more open doors for the gospel of Jesus Christ. The third specific conversation comes through prayer walking, encountering people, praying with them, talking about their life, talking about their needs, their experience. And you're going to find that sometimes the same things come up over and over again. And you're going to say, I think a church in this neighborhood could be a real solution to these problems. In fact, before we even start the church, we're going to begin meeting those needs. Let's say that you find out that there's a number of children in your neighborhood who need tutoring in school. They're failing school. Begin offering that tutoring even before you start the church. And then you will find that as you start the church and you begin entering into those service relationships, that there'll be more and more inroads and doors to the gospel for people to come into your house church who have maybe never been part of a church before. The fourth conversation is incredibly important. It's the conversation within your own home. Conversation with your spouse, conversation with your kids. Are we all on the same page, or is this just something you are trying to do? You are trying to force it. You are trying to press it. If your spouse is not on the same page, it's going to blow you up later. You need to try to be on the same page. If you're not, it's probably not time to do this. The fifth conversation is a conversation with your immediate neighbors, those next door to your home, those who will be affected by the increased flow of traffic, those who will be affected by the increase in parking. Let them know what is going on. Please explain it to them lovingly, and that way you don't have more tension and battles going on down the road. Now, there are 5 specific relationships that are essential to the start of a house church. The first is a relationship that involves personal accountability, where you have entered into a relationship asking this other person to please hold you accountable to the Jesus life in order to check in, let them know how you're doing, talk openly about your struggles, to pray together. This is going to be essential for you as you start a house church, because when you start a house church, Satan's going to come after you, like I said in the beginning. Not always going to be easy, and you're going to need to be able to be transparent, open, and vulnerable with someone on a regular basis to keep yourself in check. Second, you need discipling relationships. You need to be walking with Jesus with other people in a smaller way than the entire house church. 2 or 3 other people, and you are doing the Jesus walk together. You're in the Word together. You're studying together. You're making commitments to live out the Word. Maybe you're using Discovery Bible Study. Third, you need a relationship with a person of peace. As you go in the neighborhood, you begin to discover the problems and find solutions. You begin to find someone that Jesus calls the person of peace from Luke chapter 10. And this is someone who will get you into relationships in your neighborhood quickly, that will open up doors for the gospel of the kingdom to be received more readily. You do not move forward without that person of peace. It's an essential relationship. Number 4, you need prayer warriors. You need people who are committing to pray for you on a regular/daily basis. You need a prayer team on an app that you can send out requests to. We're about to prayer walk. Please pray for open hearts. We're about to go into worship. Please pray for God to move in our worship service. You need a team of committed people who will pray for you on a regular basis. And 5th, you need a teacher. You need someone, it could be through books, through YouTube, through podcasts, etc. But you are always being taught by someone else. You are not the master. You are not Lord. You are not the Christ. You are not in charge. You are a servant leader, and you are also teachable, humble, and that means you are always a student, always learning. You just need that kind of relationship with someone who can continue to deepen your faith and your knowledge of the Word so that you keep yourself in check and in line with the Word. Many of you are being called to lead house churches. I just really ask that you would take this incredibly seriously. There's a lot of damage that can be done by just jumping off into this thing, not understanding the risks that are involved in diving into an effort like this. It's very serious business, and I wish and pray for you the very, very best in this. If I can be an encouragement to you or a help or answer any questions, again, I'm putting my email at the bottom of the screen. I hope and pray that you would reach out, and we will be able to help you and direct you. If you didn't catch the first video, I'm putting it up here on the screen for you to watch. Check out the channel. There's more videos that are going to help you along the way. We're going to keep talking about how this looks and how to do it, and just equip you, because you probably don't have anyone local who's going to be able to train you to start something like this. And so you can continue to come back to this channel to find the kind of training you need to be able to make that kind of kingdom impact that you want to make in your neighborhood. Appreciate you watching all of it. Y'all take care and subscribe if you haven't. See you again soon.